Quigley of Officially Quigley here at LaterCon, and the topic for my talk today is going to be why leading with your message is key to creating a compelling visual narrative. What came first, the chicken or the egg? This question has perplexed the world's greatest philosophers for centuries, dating back to as early as Aristotle. How can you create something from nothing? Does the plan for creation come first? Well, if so, then who makes the plan? What's the cause? What's the effect? When I first started using Instagram, I used it in a very particular regimented way. I would take a photo, write a caption, hit post. Photo, caption, post, repeat. I did this process for about 3 years, then cue the infamous algorithm. I started to see my audience drop like flies and my engagement tank. Engagement, mind you, up until that point used to be a word that meant someone putting a ring on a finger and promising forever, but now it took on a whole new meaning. It meant extremely high levels of stress that made me want to tear my hair out, and it meant another layer of pressure to be perfect, as if I wasn't putting enough pressure on myself. Engagement got down on one knee and promised to ruin my life and forever compromise my business and chance at any hope or happiness ever. Not fun. Would you agree? I think that did not sound fun. I knew I needed to change my strategy and change fast because I was an ambitious person, but I was stuck, and the bottom line was there was no way in hell I was going to create anything I was proud of when I was feeling that overwhelmed and stressed. That's when I decided then and there to look the algorithm in the face and say, you are not the boss of me. In the next year, I grew my Instagram account over 100,000 followers, and this was a huge year of transformation for me. I'm sure you're thinking, what? What did you do? What was that mega eye-opening breakthrough aha moment that forever changed the course of my career as a creator? Well, I thought back to that dilemma of the chicken and the egg and how it might apply to Instagram and my pattern of creation. Remember when I said that I would take a photo, then write a caption, and then post it? Well, one day while I was running on the treadmill at LA Fitness watching Beat Bobby Flay, my mind wandered to work and a little question popped into my brain, almost as if it came out of thin air. What if, I thought, instead of leading with the image, well, what if the caption came first? What if the caption came before the image? What if I flip-flopped the cause and effect of my content strategy? What would change? I felt the hair on the back of my neck stand up, and I knew I was onto something. So right then and there, I paused my treadmill, I opened up the little notes thing on my phone, and wrote down 5 ideas for captions that I wanted to write. Topics that had been interesting me lately, topics that I was passionate about. I decided I would first burr the caption, AKA lay the egg, and then figure out how to take a photo, AKA become a chicken? Wait, never mind. When I started implementing this strategy, that's when I opened myself and my brain up to conceptualizing ideas for photo shoots that I had never imagined before. My content started kicking the algorithm's butt, and guess what? The best part of that was that my focus wasn't on the algorithm at all. I was so busy creating, I forgot it even existed. And that, my friends, is what I want for you. And that's why we're here today. I was so busy talking about chickens and eggs that I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Quigley, and I am a content creator based in Los Angeles. And I'm here today because I want to pull back the curtain on my creative process and walk you through step by step how I conceptualize shoots for Instagram. Now, making compelling content is about more than just showing up somewhere and hitting click a few times on a camera. It takes extreme preparation and heart. Anyone can take an amazing photo these days, but your real impact comes from the question, why? Once you have your why, then you can get to the nitty-gritty details of what makes a good photo. And you're in luck. I have over 10 years of experience with art directing photo shoots, and I'm about to let you in on my best industry tips and tricks for preparing to shoot content that captivates and converts. So now would be an amazing time to take out a pen and paper and start jotting down some notes as I continue. I'm gonna throw a lot of ideas your way coming up, so make sure to hit pause at any time if you're feeling overwhelmed. I'm going to be covering a lot, like I said, so I wanna make sure you catch every detail. Okay, if you are ready, I am ready, let's get started. Now, before you start dreaming of photo shoots, as I said a moment ago, you must first identify your why. This really is just a fancy way of saying, let your brand's mission statement run the show. The mission statement should drive all of the visual content that you make. So every single post should tie back to your why. Ask yourself what value each post brings to the space. What purpose is it fulfilling? Is it to teach, to announce, to demonstrate, to inspire, to reveal, to connect, to challenge? The more crystal clear you are about why you're making what you're making, the easier the process becomes. Next, identify who you'd like to speak to. Every brand or business has a demographic, and if you're speaking to everyone, you're probably connecting with no one. If you can identify a specific target audience, then you can learn a little more about what topics they are the most interested in and strategize your own content to better serve their needs. Once you know your purpose and your demographic, the next step is to pick a topic for a post and get inspired. This is the fun part. I mean, honestly, this is probably my favorite part of my job. I often find inspiration for topics from either journaling my current thoughts or consuming other types of media like podcasts or blogs. So it's important to surround yourself with just things that inspire you, and write about them, journal about them, experiment a little. But if you're totally at a loss for what to write about, here are some questions to spark ideas. What lessons have you learned recently? What's the backstory of your brand or profile? What's something that separates your brand or you from other brands that are similar? What's something surprising about your brand? What's a recent transformation or transition your brand has made? Have you had any aha moments recently? Next, take these ideas and try and draft up a possible caption. What would you like your post to say? If you think about this in advance, you won't be stumped when it comes to posts. And this will also help with your organic engagement if it's a truly complex, compelling topic. Pro tip, make sure to start with an attention grabber, because let me tell you, your first 2 lines are your chance to pull your audience in. And if you miss that chance, people are gonna keep scrolling. If you have a longer caption, make sure, please, to pull people in with your first 2 lines by creating a sense of urgency and mystery. Next up, make a mood board. Honestly, you'd be surprised how many people forget to do this before they go out and shoot. Use your topic brainstorming session to drive the search for image inspiration. Find images that match the sentiment and the theme of your message. I recommend using Pinterest and creating a secret board with your photographer or anyone who's helping style the shoot. This is to ensure you all have a cohesive vision and vibe for the shoot, and so that the photographer can get a feel for the types of lens and equipment to bring along. You can also reference this if you get stumped for ideas on site. The goal, the ultimate goal, is to plan a shoot around the marriage of your topic and mood board. Personally, I like to prepare and knock out more than 1 post idea at a time and batch my content. This means shooting multiple concepts in one day so as to maximize your productivity. Honestly, if you were to take 1 photo a day and post it every day, that would get so exhausting. So what I do is shoot a bunch of ideas in a short amount of time and spread them out throughout the course of a month. I like to make a content calendar for the month and decide the posts and concepts that are going live each day in advance. Next step, pick a location. Ask yourself, do you want something scenic? Do you want something that has a city vibe or something that's cozy and at home? Do you have permission to shoot there? This is huge. Make sure you ask yourself this in advance. What kind of research do you need to do in advance to be prepared for where you're shooting? These are important things to think of and prepare for. After you've picked your location, block off a time for your shoot and schedule it with all parties involved. And picking the time for the shoot is going to be highly dependent on lighting. So the next thing I want to talk a little bit about is how to pick the right time to shoot for lighting and to avoid crowds. If you want no people in your shot, schedule an AM shoot. Sunrise is also really nice for lighting. I recommend being at your location just before the sun is scheduled to rise. And if you didn't know this, you can check what time the sun rises in your specific area from any iPhone weather app. Always, always, always avoid shooting from 12 to 2 p.m. as this is generally the time where the sun is directly overhead and way too harsh. It can create weird shadows on your subject's face, so I honestly never shoot during that time. If you're going for a sunny vibe and you want to shoot in direct light, I would recommend shooting mid to late afternoon, that is 2 to 4 p.m. If you are looking for light flares or that sort of hazy backlit shot, just before sunset is ideal. And if you want an evenly lit, cooler toned image, I recommend dusk, which is just after sunset. Please note, if figuring out lighting intimidates or overwhelms you, shade is always gonna be a good option for you because it's nice and even. So that's a good place to start. The day before a shoot, think about styling and what you need to pack. I always try on the looks or test out the subject in advance. If you have outfits to prepare, take a photo of your outfits exactly the way you've styled them and share them with your photographer in the shared mood board on Pinterest. This is really helpful because that way when you're on set, you can make sure you haven't forgotten any accessories, shoes, etc. for those looks before you leave the house. 2 things I never leave the house without for a shoot are a large mirror for styling. If you're like me and you have a lot of people doing multiple jobs, you might be doing hair and makeup touch-ups on your own and you want to make sure you have a mirror. And if you have a subject changing outfits, make sure to pack some sort of cape or pop-up tent to change in if you're on the go. If you don't own one of those, you can always pack a sheet. That works as well. One really important thing to think about when you're packing is props. Props help to execute your narrative and topic. So ask yourself how you can use props to tell a story. They are such a great way to answer the question of why or reveal the purpose behind the message you're trying to convey. One example might be if I'm sitting at a cafe, I'm not just sitting there with coffee, I'm sitting there with a notebook, I'm sitting there with a pen and paper, trying to give purpose to why I'm sitting at the coffee shop. Lastly, pack water, pack snacks. No one likes a hangry creator, and creativity takes fuel, my friends. Now that you're packed, let's think about a few things that are going to help you get the best shot. Color, contrast, and composition. First, let's talk about color. What is the color palette on your subject, and what is the color palette of your location? Ask yourself in advance, do these colors go together? And if you can't visualize it in your head, try pulling up 2 photos, one of the subject and one of the location, and putting them side by side. Things to think about. Do the colors match in tone? Reds, yellows, oranges, beige, or creamy colors are warm. Blues, greens, grays are cool. General rule of thumb here is to stay in one of those 2 families. Another thing I always think about is contrast. Images that catch the eye create contrast. How do you do this? Easy. If you have a light subject, you want a dark background. If you have a dark subject, you want a light background. I think you can get that. You got it? Okay, moving on. Next, I think it's really important to think about composition. Now, I always post vertical images on Instagram. Repeat, I always post vertical images on Instagram. Wide images show up smaller in the feed and just do not perform as well, sadly. So, that's just me. You can take that information or leave it. But when I'm shooting, I shoot with a vertical 8x10 crop in mind because that's the biggest my image is going to be showing up on Instagram. Note that DSLR cameras do not shoot with a crop size of 8x10, which is the optimal size for Instagram. So when you're framing your image, just kind of imagine, like if it's here, it's gonna go, I always have the photographer take one giant step back depending on the lens that they're using, so I have extra room for cropping. Whew. I'm sweating. That was a lot to take in. So I hope you took some good notes and you had fun with me today and are able to take away some good pointers for your next photo shoot and feel very confident that you can create visually compelling content for Instagram by leading with your message first. Please do not hesitate to slide into my DMs at @officiallyquigley and ask me any questions on my creative process or just to say hi. I love hearing from you. Bye for now.
Hi, I'm Lexi from Later, and I'm here with Quigley today.
Hi. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. We ended up matching today.
I know. What is this? Our outfits go together and our nails match. We're just connected.
We are. All right, so we have a couple questions for you today. First is a lot of people are curious about like how you've developed your aesthetic over time. I know it's like changed as you've progressed and kind of want to know just like the process there.
Yeah, well, it's crazy because I've actually been creating content for over 10 years. When I was, yeah, I know, right? When I was in college, I went to school for journalism, and when I was in college, nobody worked in social media. Like, it wasn't a thing. Like, people just had, you know, profiles that they had for their own personal lives, and it wasn't used in a business way. So when I first started creating content, I just wanted to post photos of outfits. And I had no context or idea of like how to do that. And so I would just get together with friends who were photographers and we would be like, hey, you want to get creative? Like, I'm down. And we would just experiment. And that was back, like, I kid you not, around 2008.
Wow.
So, and really what that looked like was just a quick snap of an outfit.
Right.
And as I grew as a creator, it sort of looked like me working with more and more photographers because I'm, you know, generally the subject, and became just a matter of taste because, you know, you work with a lot of different people and they have different styles and you decide what you like and what you don't like. And particularly when I moved to LA, I was shooting with two specific photographers that I really gravitated towards because we just saw eye to eye on what inspired us. And from there, I realized that I had so much experience in creating content that I was really acting more as the art director than I was a subject. It was sort of a marriage of the two.
Right.
And so now when I go on shoots and run my own business, which is a content creation business, I'm an influencer, I am the person saying, okay, this is the kind of shot we're gonna get, this is the location, here's how the lighting is gonna be, this is what I want the mood to be, this is how I want it to be composed, and I will show up on set, take a couple photos, then I'll check in with the photographer and see how everything's looking, and I might say, yeah, this is really great, but I want to do it again and I want to be in the center of the frame. Or this is really cool, but I would like to try it backlit instead of frontlit.
That's great. You know exactly what you're getting at the end of the shoot. There's no surprises.
Exactly,
So
but it
helps.
really came with like 10 years of trial and error and just figuring out what style of photographs I liked.
Right, okay. So what's your advice for someone kind of trying to develop their own aesthetic that doesn't necessarily have like a camera crew or other photographers to work with and are just kind of starting from scratch?
I think my biggest piece of advice is figure out who your heroes are. I think in this world, because it is so oversaturated and there's so much content out there, there's so much pressure to be different. But I think that the focus can really be on, because everyone's like, don't copy this, don't copy that, don't be like your idols. But this is the thing. Let's say you have two idols, right? You really love Mariah Carey and you really love Whitney Houston,
Good ones.
right? You can never be them.
Yeah.
You can never sing exactly like one of the two, but what your art's gonna be is probably end up gonna be a combination of the two plus what your natural talents are, and that's gonna create something that no one's ever done before.
Right.
So take the pressure off to be different and just think about and learn from your idols and naturally fall into using that as inspiration to create your own unique style.
Yeah, I love that. Just make a vision board with
Yeah.
with all your influences.
Yeah, and also be hungry to learn new skills. And like everything is on Google.
Right.
You can Google anything.
Right.
So if you want something bad enough, figure out how to do it yourself. I wore so many hats starting off my brand. Like I said, I was the model, I was the stylist, I did hair and makeup, I found and sought out the locations, I planned the trips, I art directed, I selected all the photos, I did post-production, I did everything except for take the photo. So it's good to be as hungry as possible for new information.
Absolutely, that's amazing. You're a one-woman show.
Well, no, now I'm like a 10-person show, but
that's amazing.
it's good to outsource when you can.
Yes. So last question would be, kind of apart from creating your aesthetic, people that are trying to shoot for themselves and just completely maybe live not on a place that's super saturated with photographers
Right.
and are trying to still create great content.
Yeah, I mean, tripods are real.
Yeah,
they exist.
I just read a thing about, influencers are like putting their tripods on the sidewalk.
Yeah,
and just getting comfortable with it.
Look, it's hard, the judgment that you might get out there from people walking by on the street. And trust me, it's very uncomfortable for a while to like have people catcalling or like people staring at you weird. But whether people like it or not, the industry is moving more and more towards people creating content themselves. And you might not look like a professional photography, troupe. You might just look like an amateur for a bit, and that's fine, and you have to accept that there is a process to that, and have compassion for yourself, and just remember that, like, you're not gonna get anywhere by sitting on the sidelines and because you're afraid of people judging you.
Right.
So just go for it.
Don't be afraid to get weird with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming to talk to us. We loved having you here at LaterCon.
This is my last thing,
Yeah. Yeah, thanks.